and stuff like that. So I was,
Yeah.
as you do, I was going to get gas today, and there's
Hmm.
this one gas station that I'm like not really a huge fan of or whatever, but I'm like I don't feel like making a U-turn to go to the gas station I actually like or whatever. So I'm like, hey,
Sure.
throw $20 in it, the premium, and we'll I'll just get gas, another day or fill a tank,
Sure. You
tomorrow.
got enough to get where you're going.
Oh, plenty, even with the way I
Yeah.
drive and the Mustangs. The Mustang's good fuel economy.
Right.
At any rate, I hand the guy a card. He puts my card in. He punches in 2000. Now, a lot of places you have to do the, dollars plus cents, but like you figure on a gas pump, like who's going to be like, yes, I'll have $30.45 worth of regular, please, right? Like
Right.
it kind of doesn't make sense. Puts it in. I see the little thing, card declined. Like, all right, this is concerning because I know full stop that my card's good. I know
Right.
full stop. And he's like, he tries it again, puts in 2000. And
Oh
now I'm
boy.
starting to think, all right, this guy might be an idiot.
He's putting in $2,000 worth of
Oh,
gas.
100%. That's what I'm pretty sure, like, or I'm 99.9% sure that's what was happening. It's like, sorry, your card gets declined. I'm like, really? Like, and I look at him dead in the eyes, and I'm like, are you sure you're not just putting in $2,000?
Yeah. Can you put in two less zeros?
Can you just try that? He goes, no, no, no. This, I know the, your card's not good. Like, okay. I'm on the app for my card, and it's like, I mean, I could easily cover the $2,000 charge, but that'll,
Right. You'd rather not. You could fill up for a while on $2,000.
I'd need a few jerry cans.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, man. And at this point, like, I have enough gas to get home. I was just like trying to cover myself for today and tomorrow.
Right.
I was like, forget you, man. Like, and this is what I'm thinking. I'm like, forget you, man. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this stuff. Like, clearly having a conversation in English is really trying for this guy. We're done.
Yeah.
So I'm taking my card, putting it back in my pocket, like, and I'm just checking my phone. And I see the person at the pump across from me go, yeah, I put $20 a regular in it. Goes, sorry, ma'am, your card's declined. It's like,
This guy just doesn't want to sell gas. It's
well,
what it
what I'm
sounds
start,
like.
I either he's a, so the, I as I put it, he's probably not familiar with it. He's new. Second option is he's a complete moron. Third thing is something nefarious is going on. It's like they put it in for the amount and then they just sort of whack you for whatever they can get after the fact. Because there has been
Right.
some gas stations in that area who've been caught for less than savory business practices, we'll call it. So I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Makes sense.
F it. So I just go to my tried and true on my way home. I stop at Wawa, $20 regular, blah, blah,
Hell
blah.
yeah.
Car goes through. No problem at all. It's like Wawa for the win. It just irritated me. Because then, after I get out of there, I go to run some errands. And you know those 2-lane stoplights where it's 2 lanes for a bit after the stoplight? And then
Yeah.
it merges. Well, I'm in
Yep.
the right lane. I'm more than a car length ahead of the car in the left lane. And I don't know if he got his little, like, EV undergarments in a
Pa-
bunch.
his panties, his EV panties in a wad.
He wats it to get up alongside of me, and I'm looking at him like, whatever. I got like a couple hundred yards before the lane ends. So it's like, so I give it a little bit of gas. As you're well aware, my car is not subtle. You hear it,
Yep.
especially if you're in an EV, right?
Oh yeah.
And he's trying to keep pace with me. So I'm like, forget you, man.
You're like, dude.
Third, second, gone. I'm like, I don't have time for you. Was it one of my more intelligent things? Probably not, given the tires I'm on, plus, the temperature
The cold.
outside and the propensity
Yeah.
for salt to be and gravel and grit to be on the road. Oh man. At any rate, hello everyone, and welcome to the show. Slightly late, but we're here. Excuse me.
It's a little bit my fault.
And you'll notice we are not with a Gregson tonight. We just have our guest extraordinaire Elliott with us. So and today we have last week Elliott made me talk about an electric. I'm not even the Mach-E.
Cool with them. I made you talk about.
It's not one of my favorite.
It was the subject of the show.
Yes,
it was talked of,
and making people getting a rise out of someone makes for good content. So I will
Indeed.
I will give that. But turnabout's fair play, and as everybody knows, Elliott is a Corvette and General Motors enthusiast.
Indeed.
So we're going to talk about Fords.
Naturally, it seems to make sense.
But in the interest of balance, we are going to talk about what I have been told is a Corvette owner's greatest pastime while driving, and that is flipping the bird. Although the recipient was a BMW driver, so that's really just the automotive community in general's favorite pastime.
Yeah, that was everybody. That was the community's bird. We were just the delivery.
But Anthony, Steve, Sean, welcome. No, it's not a new camera, Steve. I've been pathologically playing with my camera's settings. There was a Windows update and it messed around with a lot of stuff, including my camera, my microphone, and my speakers. What I did do now, what I was able to find was like a depth of field.
Yeah, I was like, it does look good.
And that's why like the background behind me is blurry. It looks like it's a much more expensive camera than it actually is. It's not like an autofocus like a GoPro or your iPhone. So like if I put something in front of the camera, I don't go blurry. Like if you notice, but and then Anthony made a motion and Steve has seconded it. We're gonna call the cat Gregson.
Gregson, that's fine.
Of the show.
Yeah. She shows up more sometimes.
So and we also have Doug in chat. Doug goes, I once drag raced my 3.8 liter Mustang against the Saturn right in front of a cop, and he didn't even think we were racing.
That's a fantastic comment.
But and then we have and Sean goes, bro, I'm still figuring out Windows 11. I stripped out as much as I could when I did the migration, but I do not like the layout. I don't mind.
I'm also on Windows 11 at work now, and I don't mind it that much, but every once in a while, my only pet peeve with it is every once in a while, for no reason, I feel like it's way after I start up my computer, it just decides to be like, I need all of the resources right now, and it's like a system thing. And I mean, you can see like the hard drive activity light is just solid. Everything is just, it almost just like comes to a standstill for like 2 minutes, and you're like, what were you doing? And then it's like, nah, nothing, and it keeps going.
No, like I haven't had any like major performance issues. I haven't had any of that sort of stuff. It just likes to reset my peripherals, and it's annoying. Because like
that would be
like when I had the Mac, I could label like audio outputs. I could label my microphones. I could label this because like technically speaking, I think at this moment, if I were to look, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 audio outputs.
It's a lot.
Yeah, well, it's because 2 of which are the monitors. One of which is my microphone is dual purpose, so it does have an audio output on it.
True.
And then I have the actual 3.5 out, and then I have what I actually run through is just a jury rig of a system, just because my headphones don't have a long cord, and this was my extension cord thing that worked. And 3.5 extension cords for headphones, apparently that's a whole thing. And if you run just an extension wire, the power output, so you lose like bass and like anything that requires any sort of like high output part of it. Joe over on YouTube goes, make gas guzzling monster V8s great again, which is a great segue into
that is
Ford.
I'm ready.
So Ford is actually in the news for a lot of stuff today. One thing we won't go too deep into because we don't have any details and but is number one, Ford confirmed that they are going back to Le Mans for outright victory in the with a LMDH prototype, which will make them in 2027 the 10th manufacturer to sign up for that. Which, if you follow sports car racing, without going to, again, too deep down the rabbit hole, because my next 2 long form videos are going to be on sports car racing, is we're not that far removed from having 2, sometimes maybe if we were lucky, 3 manufacturers duking it out for overall honors in the top prototype class. To go from that to we're at like 6 or 7. We're at like 6 or 7 or 8 now. That's going to go up to 9 next year when Genesis enters the fray. You want to talk about? Yep. We talked about how Hyundai and their amazing turnaround. You know, Genesis is a Hyundai,
and their car looks so cool.
Oh, Genesis! We have gone ad nauseum at Genesis. Whoever's running the styling department over at Genesis,
good work.
Absolutely. Yeah, Steve, we're not going to talk about that because it's the we'll call it pony car that shall not be. It's not even a freaking pony car. The SUV that shall not be named. But you know,
talk about a boring thing. Like the most of the thing of NASCAR. I don't even want to get into it either. But like most of the thing of NASCAR, especially if you go, it's the sound. Mm-hmm. And like, I mean, because there's it's mostly an oval. The sensation of all the cars rushing by is a big part of it.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean,
without that, with just tire noise, roar, and what I can only imagine like gear whine. I mean, you've heard like Formula E things. All it sounds is like straight cut gears going by.
Yeah.
It's just me like air whooshing and tire noise.
Yes, and it's like, and it looks like Ross Chastain is in the lead in the Dyson vacuum.
Right. It's going to be the WNBA of motorsports. It's going to be horrible.
Which is exciting to their entire fan.
Yeah, exactly. It's
still an all-time Family Guy clip. That's for the fan to decide. Yeah, Nicholas. Steve definitely did do it. But I actually woke up to this news, which was huge. It's always good in your feed when you're sitting here and I was like 1,000 horsepower. Go on, but so we'll get to that one. But in rather unsurprising, Ford has announced 2 new crate engines. Number 1 is a Gen 4 Coyote with a 3-liter Whipple blower and 800 plus horsepower, which I like just the nebulousness on a crate motors being like it's over 800. We're not going to say how much. Right. Well, I think a lot of times with crate motors they just give you the minimum because they don't know what headers you're going to run. They don't know what. Well, yeah, But like if you run it with stock manifolds, it'll make this. Right. That's usually what I'm used to them listing is like if all stock everything that comes with it. It makes this, but if you go with whatever it's we can't guarantee. But yeah, I get it. It's still it's way cooler than saying 783. It's better to be like 800 plus. It's just like when you're pricing stuff at a supermarket. Yeah, and I mean not for nothing. Like there are very few people out there who have the ability to fact check them. Right? It's like not like exactly. Nobody's gonna hook this thing up to an engine dynamometer and be like, hey, on a second. Yeah, and so and that's pretty cool, but as this is where it's going to sound weird, especially coming from me, who some might say is we'll just say a champion of the Coyote platform. That is one way to put it. Yeah. If things go to plan at Sick Week, which is currently going on right now down south in Georgia and Florida. Things go to plan down there, and a certain green Mustang runs a 5-second quarter mile. I already have content planned because, as a lot of you know, Ford took GT Pro honors, which is the top GT class in IMSA, at the 24 Hours of Daytona. Congratulations to Elliott and Corvette for taking the GTD class, which is the Pro-Am class. So Murica for the win. Suck on
Heck
that,
yeah.
BMW. And again, we'll get to some of that a little
Yeah,
later.
I was gonna say it's like that's a whole discussion right there.
Um, oh, shit ain't working. I do not know. I didn't do anything, Nicholas.
Well, yeah, Nicholas, we see this one, so
Um, I
I don't know.
haven't done anything on our end at all, as far as comments and things of that nature. So, um, I tried to respond and it won't let me reply. I hate to sound this, but looks it might be a meta thing. I have no idea because I made one change to the stream and it has nothing to do with comments, nor was it in any way, shape, or form in meta. It was on the
Freaking Zuck.
yeah, it was on the Streamlabs side of things. By the way, there's a new alert. I tried making the volume palatable on it, but if it blows your eardrums out, I apologize. But we'll cross that bridge if we ever get to it. But 800 plus
800 plus.
Coyote. It's going to sound weird, but I don't want to say that's not impressive because it is. Because, like, you could just go and find 800 horsepower, especially out of 5 liters. You know,
Right. It's
it's
the day and age we live in.
it's
wild.
impressive. But so many people have made or built or have 800 horsepower Coyotes. If you want to talk strictly at the crank, we were at least, not to sound like the Ford crate engine or the crate engine department, but we had at least 800. The audio didn't play. Doug, thank you so much for the 100 stars. Appreciate you, my dude. I guess you got a second bottle of wine for tonight. And anyway, it's just commonplace with the Coyote platform to get 800. That's just how good of an engine it is, right? It's like when Mopar or Chevy, and I'm not doing this to shit on either of them, but it's a big deal when they get to 800 horsepower because, like, there's
Because of our single cam.
no, just because the stock stuff you guys have, it's like topping out at a still very respectable 700. Or again, this isn't meant to be a Coyote versus
No, I know.
whatever.
I'm not even getting into it. I just was making fun of it.
Because your single cam comment is null and void because the
I know now that our big horsepower stuff is dual overhead cam.
well, not even the big horsepower engine we're just about to talk about is a single cam. It's the Megazilla 2.0, which is
From Ford. Huh.
which is hysterical. So it's an evolution of the Godzilla, or it's an evolution of the Megazilla engine, which was a 620-ish. I could have that wrong. 615 horsepower, naturally aspirated, 7.3 liter
Dang.
iron block single cam, like, push rod V8. But this time they put forged internals in it. And again, they applied the 3-liter Whipple treatment to it.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like, there's no way this is naturally aspirated still.
And it makes at least, again, 1,000 horsepower. Now, it is Ford, so both of these engines are likely going to cost you at probably the price
Dang.
of a really nice used car. So
Definitely. Look at those stars, Nicholas. Thank you.
did I just miss that alert? I probably did.
Yeah, I think you did.
Oh.
He sent 1,000 stars.
Oh, Nicholas.
And a cool deuces thing.
There it is. I just saw it come across. Streamlabs is slow. Nicholas, thank you so much for the 1,000. Absolute legend.
Heck yeah.
But I just wanted to sit here. But that being said,
Well, I have some questions. So this started out. I think it's odd for how married they are to dual overhead cam. What was this engine ever in? I mean, I know it's not. This engine was not in a production car, but like, was it just bait with like I don't remember the last time they had a single cam V8 or overhead valve V8. Um, I don't know any recent memory that made any decent power, and definitely was not 7.3 liters.
Um,
Like, does this have a basis in something, or they just are like this has always been a crate motor and it's always been like,
as far as I understand it, the as far as I understand it, the 7.3 liter V8 was a offering in um, the Super Duty lineup of
right,
F-150s. Also, some of your gas powered, I forget the percentage of it, but some of your gas powered Amazon delivery trucks, vans, what have you. Uh,
like the Sprinters,
apparently
not
there's
Sprinter,
apparently
the
there's
the Transit, I guess
it
it
would
would
be
be for the
it would be a
Ford.
variation of the Transit come with the 7 point. So
Dang,
I'm just saying.
I always, yeah, wow.
So it it's taking that finest American tradition of taking a truck engine and hot rodders are going to do hot rodder things to it.
Yep,
Um,
this is the way.
so people started, and then a few years ago they offered it as a crate engine, and then they offered the Megazilla, which
Yeah,
again 600 horsepower, 650 pound feet of torque. Which, if I won the lottery, my car would be built out as the ultimate NA Mustang, and then I'd have a Raptor Bronco that I'd throw the EcoBoost away, or give it to Greg so he could do whatever the hell he wants with his small displacement turbocharged stuff, and put a Megazilla in it with the biggest,
that'd be
fattest
sick.
cam I could find because I want that thing to lope so hard that it shakes windows.
Heck yeah.
You know, here's the thing though, and here's where um, I will give it to Chevy. Y'all stuff is just so so much more affordable.
It is affordable. We have a pretty wide range of stuff, and I do want to say now I'm gonna get the stats wrong, but we do have um, a 1,000 horsepower naturally aspirated crate motor that I forgot it's like 1,000 no, I forgot what it was. I forgot like that I've seen it in real life. Hoonigan even swapped one into a third gen Camaro.
Yes, they.
It came out like last year or 2 years ago, and they had it on display at the GM Performance booth, which was really cool.
It's
Uh,
a big block.
yeah, it's a huge block. Is what it is. But I forgot. It's like the LSX 1000, and like I said, I'm screwing up the stats on that, but I just remember that it exists. Um, but I think they get that out of just sheer displacement and everything else. I mean, I'm imagining, pistons the size of coffee cans and
It's not as
all that jazz.
big as you think. So if you just work under the assumption, right? We'll use the LS7 as an example.
Yes, but that's like a small block 427, which was really cool.
Right, but if
About
7 liters equals
yeah,
427,
this is like 10 liters or something, isn't it?
it's up there. But to give an 7.3 times 427 divided by 7.
Tyler Potter's in the chat, and he's well, whether he likes it or not, he's a GM guy. He's got a ZL11LE, and his wife's got a Equinox EV, so
I mean,
he probably knows exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah. But to give you an idea, so the Godzilla is about 445 cubic inches, which is big block territory, right back
That
in the day.
is, yeah, right.
So, uh,
Also, I'm surprised they got away with calling it like a Godzilla thing because like so many people associate that with the GTR. I mean, I know it's still a cool big bad monster, as far as and describing how giant things are. I guess it's effective for that, but I don't know. Anytime you say Godzilla in the car world, my mind's instantly on GTR. So I'm surprised
I
that they went
was
that way.
I was too. Just
Because I
because
mean, then
like
again, though, we're talking about the same marketing folks that decided the Mach-E should be called the Mustang. So, you know,
I mean, I'm sure there was I forget I'm sure there was a reason.
I'm sure too. Like I said, I think it really is one of those things where they're like, describe like what's something that describes something big, and like Godzilla does. If you say something's Godzilla sized, you're like, okay, well,
Yeah, and I
you
mean,
know,
how much
I
did
can.
you really want to go down that lore? It's like
Right.
introducing the new Ford Godira.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's,
they do it
it's
hilarious.
but like what is
Yeah,
7.3 is
and Nissan doesn't own anything Godzilla. It's a nickname for that car.
yeah, well
So
it was I believe the Australians who gave it that um, nickname, but just after some quick math, the Godzilla is worth 2.8 RB26s in displacement.
and Tyler's right, but just to throw Mopar back in the room, they do have a 1,000 horsepower crate engine as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Chevy's website, so I guess because Chevy like it's the ZZ 632 slash 1000. So
Yeah,
632
see,
is the,
I would have never come up with those numbers. I just remember it being like
yeah,
LSX 1000.
but it's 10.4 liters in displacement.
See, okay, I was right. I was like, it was like 10 liters. So okay,
You
at
know,
least I wasn't.
it makes 1,000 horsepower and 876 pound-feet of torque. And it says here a max RPM of 5,000. I thought it revved higher than that. But
I'm surprised it's like max RPM isn't 3,500. Like,
well, I mean,
just like a diesel basically.
as you know, if you want to increase horsepower, because horsepower is torque over time,
It's
time being
yeah,
RPM,
torque times RPM. Yeah.
it's you either increase torque or you increase RPM. And it's very
Right.
weird that, that RPM, generally speaking, engines of this type with that RPM make similar. Like, for example, the 9.4 liter, 572 cubic inch big block makes 621 horsepower, 645 pound-feet of torque at 6,000 RPM. That might be where peak power hits. But
I mean, trying to think.
let's go.
Older Corvettes and stuff, they really only rev out to like high fives. It's not like they're, you know, screaming.
Yeah.
I just think it's the nature of the beast, literally.
Yeah.
Although, like I said, Ford really missed the opportunity calling this thing like the Mothra, or like, a real enemy of Godzilla that was equally as giant.
Yeah. What the hell? I'm gonna. Frick. I'm hard. Bikini Atoll. Not the most. What's the word I'm looking for here? Not the most
Not
like
the most
evocative
well-known.
thing, but
Yeah.
so not to go on a history rant, but short version of that story is we used to use Bikini Atoll as a test site for nuclear weapons, i.e., let's see what this does. And then I think the
It
last,
was a fun time.
yeah, the amount, if you Google the amount of nuclear devices we've detonated, it will
Oh, I know.
truly terrify you.
It's crazy. I mean, we used to set them off, on U.S. soil all the time.
Oh.
Just like we're like, we were like, damn, that's pretty crazy. And then they're like, oh man, I guess we can't use this whole area for
There you go.
forever.
I think Sean nailed it. Just call it the kaiju.
Yeah,
Argument could be made during that testing that we were actually the first country to send a man-made object into orbit before Sputnik, and it was a 2,000-pound manhole cover because
oh yeah, that's a cool story.
because we were detonating them above ground. People are like, question, is this safe? I'm like, ish. Steve, thank you for the 200 stars, my dude. Appreciate you. So they're like, okay, we'll just detonate it underground. And they just basically made a nuclear potato cannon, for lack of a better way of putting it.
So crazy.
And, but anyway, Bikini Atoll has two things in pop culture that almost everybody knows. Number one, because this explosion, so they were using as a fuel some variation of lithium, and then to fill in the rest of the sphere or whatever it was, they used an inert version of lithium. So they were expecting an explosion of X, of like, we'll just say 10 explosions. Well, turns out when you use fission on this one form of lithium, it goes off and hits the other lithium and turns it into fissionable material. So the explosion was magnitudes bigger than they were expecting. It actually in the, I think it was like the radiation circle or whatever it is. It didn't. The shockwave was actually felt by like Japanese fishing vessels who weren't expected to be in the blast radius. They had terrible radiation sickness, and like Japan actually referred to it as like a second Hiroshima. You figured Nagasaki would be considered the second Hiroshima, but
that's what I would also consider. They're like, shit, I already thought we had Hiroshima too.
But that explosion in that test site, that explosion specifically, and all the radiation was the inspiration for Godzilla. Like that's where they like
because he came from under the sea, and
under the sea, the atomic, all that other sort of stuff. And the second thing is SpongeBob. Because where does SpongeBob?
I'm very thankful for this.
Where does SpongeBob live? Bikini Bottom.
Ah, right, and that's what that means, huh?
Yeah. So, hey, things you didn't expect on
But I think this still goes through the thing is that Ford's missing an opportunity to aggressively Japanese brand this new motor.
Yes.
Like, you go to the website and it's just all Japanese, like, letters and stuff, and like just like crazy anime type advertising. You're like, what is going on?
It's got like the big eyes and like
it's like everything's like
Henry
crazy.
Ford standing over an engine with the big anime eyes and stuff.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like I said, it'd be so funny. They're missing an opportunity here, and it'd be so confusing. Everybody would be talking about it. Be like, why is this really, like, for no, all intents and purposes, very American motor being touted as this crazy Japanese thing?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's honestly screaming for a swap. Someone should put Godzilla in Godzilla.
Yes. I mean, it needs to happen for sure.
God, I wish I had money.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We've talked about this on our chat before like that. Just imagine us with unlimited money and just a film crew. Like, we could do so much cool shit.
Oh my gosh. Like, you would just get an email that was like 3 pages of like rules for like okay, build this. Here are the rules.
Yeah.
Greg will get some, and Hanson will be involved in the fun. We'll let him take the JDM angle, just because he's a big fan of that. Although his dream car, if money was no object, would be to build a Factory 5 Cobra. So,
those are cool.
Super cool. And I mean, what is it? There are Shelby certified by Shelby American. New, made in the last few years, Cobras around, utilizing Coyote power, of course, but like, not for nothing, it would have been the engine Shelby chose regardless. So
definitely.
Steve, what's with the tentacles? Oh my god. Yeah, Anthony goes, I'm in the same boat. Huge money would allow for some pretty unhinged stuff. I feel like
definitely
Anthony and Sean with a bottomless budget would make a fairly entertaining YouTube channel. Just in our DMs, just some of the ideas they kick across would be
already the name of it, just Anthony and Sean, and you're like, wait, what are those guys up to?
Oh, I mean, I already told them if they ever do combine forces to create a challenge, it should be the Appalachian American Garage, aka the nice way of saying redneck. I mean that with love.
Excuse me.
See, Elliott loves it, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
That's my symbol of love.
Yeah. Uncontrollable
like 6 sneezes
sneezing
in a row.
One of my best friends has that. I don't even know if it's. It's not like it's that genetic tick to where um dramatic light shifts. So going from like inside to outside in a bright sunny day
Oh yeah, yeah,
will cause him to sneeze.
that's crazy.
Sean see, here's what this is exactly what I'm talking about. Sean goes, crazy idea. What if Ford cut the Coyote in half and made it a mini Stang K car? Um,
Awesome, but then you can't call it a Mustang, and Chad will have a problem.
I mean, it's begging to be called the Capri. I'm just saying.
That would be, yeah, that would be a good Capri.
Um,
Um,
no, but that does actually um, remind me of something that I didn't actually include in the brief that I sent over to you, but um, might surprise you.
okay, I'm ready.
Actually, I did touch on this in our private chat, but um, is
Everyone's
that
gonna get so jealous. We have a private chat.
yes, 25,000 stars gets you entry.
That's there you go.
We have a big build off to finance. As some of you guys may or may not know, Shelby American. Now this is legit Shelby.
Yeah, I actually did want to talk about this. I was glad you brought this up.
Just
Go
came
ahead.
out with the brand new GT350 and GT350R. It has $109,000 starting price, and I'm actually look. Don't get me wrong. It's an 800 plus horsepower Mustang that you can get with 3 pedals. Comes with a warranty. Has all the stuff you'd want, and somehow it's disappointing.
Yes, I have thoughts on this after you're done. So like I was excited about it because they made it a reveal. Like they brought it to the Barrett Jackson as if like, oh, it's the new. You say your piece. I've got a whole thing on it too.
The short version of that, and I made a reel about this, and some people and then people were going, "You have to understand, this is Shelby American. It's not Ford. They don't have the engineering." Dirt, 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 dirt. Yes, but that wasn't the case with the original Shelbys, right? Shelby
Right.
famously said about the original Mustang, you can't make a racehorse out of a mule," and then proceeded to make a racehorse out of it, which is so very Shelby. But the new one just feels like, and now that the Gen 4 supercharged crate motor came out, you're like, you can't help but wonder. But it feels like they did something any of us would do, right? They found the
Right.
best aftermarket supercharger. I don't know how much they did with the brakes, but it just feels like they went through and they just went on a shopping spree at Lethal Performance for the, you know, S650 Dark Horse, put a body kit, slapped their name on it, and called it that. And I can't for the life of me see what's different between that and uh, the other supercharged S650 Shelby they came out with. It feels lazy to me, and lazy's not the right word, but it
100%.
feels unoriginal. Like if I
totally
can go,
agree.
if a guy can go who has the budget to do so and build the exact same thing, it doesn't feel special.
Not special, exactly.
You know,
And that's kind of my thing with it. And but also that my other thing with it is what they're cashing in on, and this kind of almost piggybacks on last week, even though this has way more justification to be that. They're really piggybacking off of everyone going, ooh, GT350. Not really what it is. And like I said, it takes, because the headline is, there's a new GT350 out, until you peel back the curtain and look at what it is, knowing that it's Shelby American doing it and not, Ford, as an OEM doing it. Um, and I think my problem with it is this is similar to what your problem with it is, especially with the prevalence of Ford's. And Ford's great about this. Their aftermarket. I mean, our Ford dealership here in town is regularly selling warranted, whippled cars right off the lot, you know, because you can get it from Ford Performance. They'll install it as long as, you know, dealer installed, whatever. You know, they could basically make dealer install your way into this car without the official name. But it, like I said, it to me doesn't mean as much because yes, it's Shelby American, which is as close to real Shelby as you can get anymore, but it's somehow still not as legit as when Ford themselves makes a GT350 or a GT500. You know, that's when I go, that's the real one. This, like you said, it is almost like somebody just threw a little bit of a catalog at it. It doesn't even seem like the engineering was there. It's not like they said, "Oh, this is bespoke suspension just for this car."
Lowering
or
springs.
Yeah, it's just lowering springs, thicker sway bars. I think better brakes, like you said, and the body kit, which is cool. But I don't think it justifies the tag. And then you got to remember they make a non-supercharged version of this. So there is a version of this where you can get a GT350, and it's essentially just a dark horse now with a bunch of badging. It seems like I don't know if, like you said, lazy isn't the right word, but it just doesn't seem like you can call it the GT350, especially because I think, you know, when you get a Roush Mustang, more went into that than this. You know, like there was specific things made for this. Like they engineered a car. The people that have the rights to the name could have done all the things in the world, and they were like, we had a teenager pick out stuff from a catalog and put it on this car. Now, like I said, not saying that an 800 horsepower car isn't impressive, but the fact that I can go buy a Mustang and have the dealership put on essentially this exact same stuff without as much of a markup, it just doesn't make this thing that special to me. And like I said, I got kind of bummed because I really did think it was an official release until I was like, oh.
And now,
and you know, they were even kind of saying like, oh, and it's still got Ford's powertrain warranty on it, so it voids a bunch of other stuff. You know, so you're taking a brand new, I don't know, like a fully optioned dark horse is like what, like 69,000.
pretty much. And I'm glad that I haven't found it specifically anywhere, but I'm just on some of my, like, just digging. I'm pretty sure it is a dark horse with all these sort of bolt-ons put onto it.
Right.
Because if it isn't, the manual cars will get an MT82. And now you're asking for trouble.
Oh, yeah, that's just hilarious.
The dark horse has got a Tremec, which is good.
Right. I didn't really. God, it's so mind blowing to me that they still do that because I mean, I know it's old news, but even the outgoing generation, it's like they got it for the Mach 1. They were like, let's put a Tremec in that, and you're like, which is great.
Yeah. Well, here's
I'm happy they did that, but it's like, why did they go back? Like, it's like, do they not have a good enough deal with Tremec? Like, I just don't get it.
Not 100%, but a couple things I will mention about the MT82. The first gens are the most prone to failure. The second gens that came in the facelifted S550 are better. They use different gear ratios, and I think the synchros are beefed up. If I'd have to double check. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
And they made a better shift mechanism. It's still disconnected from the transmission itself, so it's bolted to the chassis, not the trans. So it does lend to itself to some imprecision, but it is, as someone who's driven both, it is way better. But back to the Shelby thing, and the thing that kept coming up was that, you know, and you mentioned it, you know, the Ford Shelbys in the S550 model run were under license to use the Shelby name.
Right.
So now it makes sense why. Because just a day or two before the Shelby came out, or the new GT350 came out, you saw that Ford was filing for trademarks for the Boss name. Now it's like, why is the sort of hot Mustang right now called the Dark Horse? And why was the hottest one called a GTD, which is too Germanic in its nomenclature for my liking, but whatever. Because
look at what the car is designed to do.
well, no, it's the same basic concept of how I'll use Porsche as the example. Porsche names its special 911s after the race series it was designed to compete in, or the class it's designed. So the GT3, or we'll start with the
Right.
GT2. The GT2 originally competed in, gasp, the GT2 class. That went away or changed its rule set. But what car is the global GT car now for Porsche? The GT3. It competes in
GT Thrizzle.
the GT3 class. And the GT3 class in IMSA, the American Sports Car Series, is GTD, D as in Daytona. And that's where the GTD Mustang comes into play. So
Right.
it's Porsche in its nomenclature. I guess if you're going to copy someone, Porsche isn't a bad thing. But that goes back to being a homologation special in the sense that it has the trick rear suspension. And if they wanted to use it in the race car, they had to make a certain number of production
Right.
examples. But it's sad to me that the Ford Performance Shelbys are considered by people like you to be the quote-unquote real Shelbys.
Which is funny because the real Shelbys back in the day were not that. I get that.
You know, and
But it's like Ford had the money to put behind. You know what I mean? Like they had OEM dollars to make those things cool. So it just turned out to be the fact that you're like, that's the real one. Even though I know in its what the way that it is, like if you had a '66 Shelby, it was tinkered on by somebody other than Ford, obviously, Shelby.
yeah,
Which would normally make you think that the Shelby American is the more Shelby-ish thing of the modern age, but it's in name only.
right.
In my
They're not a
opinion.
race car team anymore, and that's what
I'm
we
saying.
were
It's in
getting
name
with the
only.
originals.
Right.
But the offshoot of this is you can almost guarantee now we're not going to get what we expect as a Shelby S650 that everybody was expecting. Because what was it when the GTD came out, right? Everybody was like, well, what the hell's the GT500 or the going to be, right? That was the high horsepower Mustang. But this makes the
Right.
same power, So
So I mean, did they lose the right? Like I said, did Shelby American buy the rights? Did they lose the ability to call anything GT350 and GT500 anymore?
So for the
that what happened?
For the S550s, so for the S550, GT350, and GT500, Ford paid Shelby America for the naming rights.
Right. That makes sense.
So that wasn't an indefinite contract. That ran out right around, as we've learned, right around the time the S650 was ending and the S550 was ending and the S650 was coming. So, which nobody knew except for people at Ford and people at Shelby, which again makes
Sure.
things like the Dark Horse, the GTD, and then what I'm actually now really excited for,
Yeah, this boss thing would be pretty cool.
Boss, because like I know the natural is there. Boss 302, they could have a high output. That almost, well, the GT350 replaced the Boss 302. As far as I've had multiple people at Ford Performance mention, it's like that was the track car, and then with the S650 they used the Shelby GT350 name for it. So I'm guessing that's kind of what's going to happen with this generation. I would love for them to do like a Boss 327 or something like that and put a stroked Coyote in it, because like what annoys me
That'd be sick.
what annoys me the most, and this is such a me thing, and it's such not a rational thought at all, but what bothers me is that the race cars, the car that just won GTD Pro at Daytona, those cars have a 5.4 liter Coyote race car in the race cars.
Yeah.
I want a street Coyote that's making similar displacement. And companies like MMR, and a couple others. So from what I understand, the max you can get out of, like MMR just did a full build on a Coyote, 5.5 liters, and they were knocking on the door of 700 horsepower NA.
That's sick.
I don't know what fuel they were on. I'm guessing it wasn't 93, just because of the revs they had probably had to turn. But like, still, I think it would be really cool to get like a 5.4 liter Boss Mustang that's built to handle all that sort of stuff. You know, give me a horsepower figure that's creeping on 600 ish. You know, just to separate it from the dark horse, right? But what actually got me more excited was, what if they made a drag special? Because that brings me to the next one, which is the Boss 429.
Right, Sean in comments just mentioned that, which is funny.
You know, well, Ford should bring back the 429 Cobra Jet and make it a turbo. Well, right now the Cobra Jet is a purpose-built drag car and an intake manifold. The best one you can get right now from Ford.
Yeah.
By the way.
But see, that's the thing. They make these drag specials, and I mean, I know I think I know where you're going with it, but it's like, I don't really know. Everyone, it's like people snatched them up and collected them, and they plateaued in value, because the Copo Camaros, when they came back out with those two, same kind of deal. I've never actually seen one at a drag strip. I'm not saying that everybody put them away, but it seems like every single one that I've ever come across, both at auction, we even had one on the lot at a dealer. We had a Cobra Jet, actually, which is funny. We had a Cobra Jet at our Chevy dealer. Hilarious.
Well, even they knew that if you wanted to go fast.
Oh yeah, no, it's our cool Chevy dealer. They're the guys that let me drive, like, like the 4x4 squared and stuff like that. Their showroom is like hilarious. They don't have, unless it's a ZR1, basically they don't have a Chevy on their like showroom. It's like GT3s, Bentleys, wild stuff, and like every once in a while they have like a 69 GTO and like different. But it's like I said, it's just this showroom full of wacky, great enthusiast kind of cars. And like I said, once I was like, you guys have a Cobra Jet. This is wild. But like, but the point is that all of these that I see, and we've even had a Copo and a whatever Dodge calls theirs. I think they just call it like a Challenger drag pack, I believe. Like, it doesn't have like a name further than that. But we've had a couple of them worldwide, and it's like, it's almost like the selling people are like, oh, delivery, miles and stuff like that. Like, yeah, because what do you do with it? It's $120,000 car that's not street legal, and that if you're a real drag racer, you've either built your own car, and you're not going to risk tanking this one because you can go just as fast for 10 grand in a Fox body. It's just, they're funny cars and they're great for collectors, but I don't know if that's the move to make. Like, I mean, I know that would make sense to bring back the 429 Cobra Jet and be like, it's the drag only special. I just don't know
in the sense of the. So let me rephrase that. The Boss 302 was a road race car built for the it was built for the street.
It was for the street, but it was definitely for that. And then they had a drag version.
And the Boss 429 was more the straight line car. I would like to see kind of a straight line focused, but not a drag special. Think of it in the vein that you could take the S550 chassis and you could put suspension and certain stuff in it that makes it better for going in a straight line, but it's still drivable around town. My whole thought is, I think it would be insane to bring back a big displacement Mustang, in the sense of, we talked about it earlier, maybe not the Megazilla 2.0, the 1,000 horsepower variant. I mean, if they want to go that route, I'm not going to stop them. But I think it would be cool to put the NA version. It makes over 600 horsepower. Call it the Boss 445 or whatever the cubic inch is exactly. And it kind of, I feel like now that we live in a world where there's only one V8 American muscle car left.
There can only be one.
I mean, we are the never interrupted. We are the Highlander of muscle cars.
I know, you're the last standing bastion of, Muscle carness. I know. Toot your own horn.
I would, but the car's underneath me. Um, and I don't. It's a little late for that. My neighbors.
I know. I'm jealous that that you guys are the ones. I love how it's still like. I love how we still treat this like sports teams, like as if I can't go drive a Ford. I'm like, no, it's you guys.
Oh, it's like screw Missouri. I don't know who Kansas
Yeah,
State.
it's like, I'm going to drive a Mustang. You know, like I said, I'm like there's almost a 100% chance I'll drive a Mustang soon. You know, like it's not even like so. I don't even hate them. It's just funny to pick a side, I guess.
Yeah, but my point is like that true blue muscle car that Dodge was such a champion of. And think of it more as a Hellcat than a Cobra Jet, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah, no, I got it as soon as you were kind of saying like when you broke it down. I figured exactly what you meant. And if they make it more like a Demon, where they go, hey, the Hellcat is this, the Demon is definitely just for this, but still a street car. That kind of thing. Makes total sense.
Yes. Sean goes, Mustang has never technically been a muscle car as a pony car. It's supposed to be smaller car than a muscle car with a muscle car engine. What would you call a 340 Dart then? Not trying to be argumentative, but like there have been, okay, let me put it to you this way. There hasn't been all Chargers muscle cars, if you want like that, right? Except for like the V6s, but you get what I'm getting at. Not all, I guess technically you're right, but like not all Mustangs are muscle cars, but some are. Case in point, the Boss 429. They literally had to send it off across the street to have somebody else re-engineer the front end just so they could fit the engine in it, which I love. It's the most American shit ever.
See, that's the kind of thing too. Like I said, I've said it from on high. One of the best periods of American history is just when we just put bigger stuff in. Like it was such a simple time.
When in doubt, add displacement.
Yeah, it was like just bigger. Like it's so easy, guys. Like it seriously like sounds like fourth graders are in the company. They're like, obviously a bigger engine.
What do you got? What do you think we need for the next car? Bigger,
more.
You sound like my ex.
Yeah,
but like,
I would have loved to have been in those board meetings. No wonder you could be like hammered all the time back then. Yeah, you just be like, "Huh, more," and they're like, "Excellent idea."
But it's just like, imagine, right? Because the pushrod boys are gone. You put this engine in it. You give it that sort of light to light feel, right?
Right, which is what you want on the street, by the way.
And you give it that sort of lopey feel to it, and I'm not, again, I wasn't trying to shit on you, Sean. I was just, when it gets to like, what is a sports car? What is a supercar? What is a hypercar? We could go into that in greater detail, but like,
dude, Chad, they're having a whole duke out in the comments right now about Ecotechs, Suzuki, and like Daewoo. I mean, it is so different than what we're talking about.
That's why, I mean, Sean will say it. He's the captain of the unhinged direction that our chat goes.
It's just so funny because we're over here talking about huge displacement, all this stuff, and these guys are like, "You don't think there's Suzuki DNA in the Ecotech?"
You know, and then like someone's mad that Chevy never made a Cruise SS.
Right. I mean,
like Anthony goes, but my point remains: the Daihatsu Charade plus ZX12 equals hell yeah. I have no idea what he just said. None.
Oh my god. You know what? They didn't make a Cruise SS, but they did make, for some reason, a Cruise Eco, and I think it was just this. They just put a 6-speed in it. And my favorite part was it's not an H pattern because it's 6, but you know what I mean, on the shift pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, had like the numbers. It was like black circle with the numbers, but the number 6 was green because that was your green gear to be in for your economy. And I was like, that's what makes the Eco special, is that you can put it in 6th. Like,
I mean,
so yes,
they
didn't get an SS, but they did get the Cruise Eco. So let's not forget it.
Yes. Later, Steve. Thanks for watching. But like, that's actually not uncommon. A lot of
no, they did that yeah, back in the day.
A lot of
Especially
manuals.
during the fuel embargo, they definitely were big on your economy gears.
But a lot of your
Even
manual transmissions are geared in such a way where fuel economy is paramount to actual straight line performance. If you look at like the gear ratios, back like I think they did a good example of this back when I think my like 2015 the first gen S550 Mustangs, you get a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed auto, the 6R80. And the
right.
way they were geared, the automatic, if you just everything shifted the same speed wise, the automatic was always going to accelerate faster because it had better gear ratios for acceleration.
And you were never. It was always in the power. Like there were no gaps.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just sitting here thinking if you put, quote unquote, I guess like the big pushrod engines are quote unquote kind of the big blocks of today, right? Because nobody's going to put. Could you imagine like now in the Silverado a 632 big block? Like
Oh,
no, but I mean,
dude, but it would be the marketing on that would be awesome. If they bring back the Like a Rock commercials and they start, they say big block and they drop a front loader full of bricks from like 10 feet up like they used to into the bed.
yeah.
When you're like, you just watch the commercial and it's like they just totaled that truck, and then they're like, it doesn't matter, look how awesome it is. Like, I mean, bring back that kind of marketing. I'd be all for it.
Hell yeah. But
You say big block and you drop a bunch of bricks or cinder blocks into the bed of a truck from a great height. I'm sold.
yeah. Well, I mean, it'd be fantastic, right? That 632 or whatever it was. It's like,
Yeah.
Ford needs this much, and it thinks this is an engine. Well, we literally
Yeah.
doubled it. Like,
Exactly. That'd be so awesome. Well, actually, with different, I'm not gonna get political, but if Trump does do all the stuff where they're like, fucking screw mandatory fuel economy and stuff like that, what if they do just go back to being like, dude, we deactivated cylinder deactivation. It's gone. We've made the engine twice as big. You're like, oh, this is awesome.
I mean, it certainly opens the door for specialty vehicles that they could sell without it hurting the average MPG. Now, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like, over in Europe, they still have all that stuff. But, like, over here, again, like, imagine a special edition because, hey, I think sports trucks are, well, not sports trucks, but you know what I mean? Like, the Lightnings of the world, the
Right.
Chevy Extreme, those style trucks. I think, because trends are cyclical, those things are, and like the Maverick is showing there's an appetite for the mini trucks.
Right.
Slammed.
Well, yeah, because those things look freaking sweet. Just a little slammed and like whatever. Yeah, they're bringing back the mini truck scene, which is I'm all for.
I still want to see someone, even though I hate the way they sound, I still want to see someone swap over the driveline out of a Focus RS into a Maverick.
That would be sick. I'd like that idea too. I mean, even just the idea of a Maverick popping and banging coming around the corner, I'd be like, dang, what is this?
There's a guy who's swapping in bigger EcoBoost 4-cylinders into him. Well, when I say into him, I mean into his Maverick, not like a bunch of.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like, well, there's only like, so it's like there's the ST. Well, no, probably the Fiesta ST motor is probably bigger than what the Maverick's got.
Didn't the Fiesta STs get the
Night, Steve.
Turbo 3? Later, Steve.
I thought maybe they did. I didn't. I don't know. I don't think the Fist. I always thought that they were still 4s. They were just smaller.
No, the last gen. I think the last
gen
was
the 3-cylinder was from that era was the Mazda 2. That got a 3-cylinder like Sky Active thing.
The last generation of Fiesta ST was, I think, a 1.6 liter 3-cylinder. I think they had.
Okay, I thought the regular Fiesta was a 3-cylinder, and for some reason the ST got a 4-cylinder. I'm also not a Fist enthusiast.
Okay, so it's actually a small 4-cylinder.
Okay,
I
so I
should
was
know
right.
that.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that that's what makes
Might
the
have been.
Corolla really cool, the Corolla GR, because like it actually is a hot 3-cylinder.
Yeah, so
And I don't think Ford was up to a hot 3-cylinder back
that's
then.
another thing that annoys me, not to go way off on a tangent. Toyota, we had to partner with BMW because we cannot engineer a straight six. Here's this hot 3-cylinder we just pulled out of our ass.
Yeah, you're like, you can make that?
Just
Like,
it just job done.
the most high-strung motor possibly of all time from an OEM, and like that seems way harder to make than a straight six. But what do I know?
But I mean, like I'm just thinking, like why wouldn't OEMs just come out with like a of course. Anthony goes,
line.
BRB, I'm going to go find out if there's a Sherrod anywhere, mostly out of morbid curiosity. Moments later, my man DMs me a Facebook Marketplace link to one. Why are you guys talking about this? It's hideous.
I mean, I'm just, like I said, I'm loving that we are talking about huge displacement, fire-breathing American motors, and they're having a legit discussion about like undesirable cars, for lack of a better term.
I mean,
and Tyler Potter makes a good point. He's saying Jeep's not doing well with their new inline six because he's a tech for Mopar, and he's saying the in real life the Hurricane is not doing so well. Like they're already having problems with it in the Wagoneers and stuff that have been showing up with it. Obviously, no one's buying the Hornet, so I guess nobody would know if that's doing well. But I imagine it's the same kind of deal. And then they haven't even released it in the Charger yet. But he did say, and I'd love to. He needs to get on here sometime. I do want to hear his thoughts on driving the electric Charger. He said he said it was cool, but there's only so much you can say over text versus actually being on here. But he's right. I basically what I'm saying is, I say how hard is it to make an inline six, and I guess it's pretty difficult.
I mean, yeah.
At least these days with twin turbo sixes that can both make power and make emissions, and have a million accessories and hoses and these
It's no more
vacuum lines and stuff.
Here's the thing though, it's a lot simpler than when the Japanese were doing it in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, have you ever
it was simpler then.
Well, have you ever seen the maze of vacuum lines that is a stock GTE 2J? It's just vacuum lines and vacuum lines.
Yeah.
I'm talking from an engine management standpoint. Like, here's the bottom line.
Funny.
You can make a...
He said that the Hurricane has been dubbed the shitstorm in the tech world. That's pretty funny.
I mean, I'd be curious with that engine, who did the development on it, because I'm willing to bet that Chrysler didn't have as much control in the development as they would have liked. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong, I can't think of another dual overhead cam engine that they've made that was worth anything. Yeah,
but what I'm surprised with, and I mean, this is always a bad choice for no matter manufacturer or other situations. What they did is, before the engine even came out, honestly, Chrysler put that out, and they were like, by the way, we are hitching all of our wagons to this engine. This is our new engine, unproven. Here we go. Everything worth a damn is going to have this engine and this engine only now. Like, it was an insane move. Like, there was nothing doing it, and they're like, this is now our engine. Like, it wasn't like, hey, we're trying this one out in small batches so we don't embarrass ourselves and we can figure out the kinks on this thing. They were like, I mean, like I said, they just seriously not putting all of your eggs in one basket isn't even quite the correct analogy for what they did. It was a wild move. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, here
Ford kind of did it with the EcoBoost, but they had different versions of it, and they had it detuned enough that it was fine. Um, whatever this sounds like, and I mean Tyler obviously could go give me details about it. It seems like the Hurricane is like too high strung from the factory.
I mean, it certainly
It's
sounds it
just
because I mean, not for nothing. I mean, a twin turbo straight six isn't inherently more complicated than a twin turbo V6. Argument could be made it's significantly simpler because they're,
no, that's what I'm saying. It's like it should be on paper a simpler deal.
even if you treated the cylinders 1 through 3 and 4 through 6 as a quote unquote bank of a V. It again, to your point of just like, this is our new. I mean, I understand from a business standpoint wanting, okay, if we have one engine that we have slight variations of, that we can throw in everything from a Charger to a truck to an SUV to this,
and it makes sense.
it makes a ton of sense. Guess what? They already had that with Gen 3 Hemi. Now, I get that the Gen 3 Hemi was getting a little long in the tooth. I get that, having such... I just think they read the room so wrong. Like, so incredibly wrong about... With the whole idea of where EVs were going, to the point where it's like, well, shit, everybody... all our competition's going to have to make an electric muscle car. We might as well be the first. And then it's like all that stuff starts getting backtracked, and they're like, hey.
Well, it's not only that, but I mean, part of it, what made me love them is that they had a distinct lack of even a hybrid, really. Like, they didn't have a hybrid in their lineup.
Yeah.
Until the Pacifica hybrid, later on. And it was like they just went on this whole thing, which I loved, and I think I can speak for the car community as a whole here. I loved that they went as long as they could. They were like, we're gonna put a supercharged V8 in anything that will hold a supercharged V8, and make sweet commercials where all these things are just burning out the entire time. We're gonna have Goldberg in there. Like, this is just the most kick-ass thing ever, and we will deal with catching up next year. And and then all at once they were like, and this year we are drawing a fine line in the sand saying no more of that. And now we're doing this. And part of this was the Hurricane, and being like, this is our new hot motor. Also, it's our new everything motor. And it's basically supposed to be, the base of the pyramid for everything in this whole company. We haven't really tried it out that much. Like, it was an insane move.
Sounds quintessentially French, but
yeah, it was just an insane move to be like. I mean, like I said, I loved what they were doing, being like, hey, we're gonna have to stop this soon, so let's go all out while we can. And then they were like, and now what we're left with is just a weird.
And of course, and they just didn't read the room in the fact that, like, we've gone ad nauseum on the Charger. I don't think we need to go.
We've had whole episode and a half, I'd say,
at minimum. But the biggest thing is that they didn't look at when Ford came out with the EcoBoost and be like, this is going to replace the V8, and the consumers are like, no, it isn't. And because, and I'm not going to sit here and say that the Coyote is a simple engine. But when you start introducing turbos and the heat and what have you, and turbo torque and the tuning involved and everything you have to do,
and like I said, not even that. There's piping. There's more cooling going on now. There's a lot. It adds complexity, no matter which way you slice it.
And especially in the pickup truck market, the more complex something is, the less somebody wants it.
Exactly.
This isn't. I mean, your luxury sedan.
Yeah.
Where
the pickup truck market, my favorite thing that they've ever done, and this goes to your point, it's don't mess with something, especially their customers. What they want is something simple. Like, we've had the ability to have, keyless entry forever. GM and stuff like that did the market research and found that even though you get a Yukon and whatever else, and this is the last generation, current generation Silverados and stuff have keyless go, but there was, if you got a 15, still had a key. It was like why? And it was like, because these people want a damn key. Like, you don't mess with something in the truck world, you know? And I think that was like one of those things where it's like, I don't trust it. That's too much stuff going on. Like, you don't hear Silverados with valved exhaust, because all of those guys would be like, that's not going to work. Like, you leave trucks alone if you can.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, trucks in America, big deal. Ram was on a run, man, starting in about 2019 with that generation of Ram.
So hot.
They boom. They nailed the interior. They nailed, like, they were just bang. They passed the Silverado. And they were the second.
And then they came out with, I know you're a Ford guy, and then they came out with a cooler version of the Raptor. You know, it's like,
100%.
This is, yeah, it was like, this is awesome.
Huh. That's a new feature. Sorry, I just clicked the button on my back end here of the stream, and there was a new shiny thing that distracted me. ADD. Hey. Right. I mean, it might come as some surprise to you, but what I did a comparison video between a Ram and an F-150, both in their highest trims. Although I guess because Limited replaced King Ranch. And
do they even have a Platinum anymore?
I don't know. I haven't looked at like the top level F-150s in so long. All I've been looking at is single cab, 4-wheel drive V8 because
I was gonna say, you know what? Speaking of, remember, because we were actually this is on the GT350 subject. Our local, one of our local Ford dealers, in their latest commercial, they advertised basically saying, we have single cab, all-wheel drive Coyote F-150s, and they had one on the showroom that has all 4-wheel slicks and is whippled. And I'm like, it's so sick that we live in a day and age that you're like, the dealer is like, come get this.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a freaking, rocket.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's a cheat code. It's the easiest way to get into the tens.
It is. It's nuts.
Out there. And I mean, I guess like Midnight Performance sort of like, they're the guys with them. But I'm pretty sure Cletus has something to do with it.
Cletus has a lot to do with it.
He's done
popularizing it. Because he showed how easy it was.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It's just... And
then, not to mention, if you have... I mean, I know it takes away some of the fun, but you have the Ford dealer do it for you, and the stuff's warranted now? I mean, what more can you want?
Right.
That's literally the coolest thing ever.
I mean, point of order, though, is you might want to take the well, I mean, obviously you don't want to drive slicks on the road, right? Like there's
right.
But the other side of that is apart from not having the best traction in, say, moist, Greg's not here, he's going to get annoyed at that word, but at any rate, conditions, slicks beat the ever-living fuck, especially if you're turning lock to lock on like CV joints and axles and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Shanko slams beer on table.
Shit's pants.
Just bring back the XL, XLT, Lariat, and LL Bean.
And LL Bean, hell yeah, brother. If we could get a modern LL Bean Explorer.
Oh, and the FX4 and FX2. But, like, this is part of it. If dealers are seeing the value...
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. LL Bean was Subaru, Eddie Bauer. He's right. Either way. I've been in a few Eddie Bauer Explorers in my day.
LL Bean. God.
LL Bean was Subaru.
But, like, this is what I say when I'm saying, like, I think the slammed full-size pickup truck is due for a comeback. Because people are doing this stuff. Think about it. Like, you get I don't know. I don't even know what you would call it. I don't even want to think about it because Ford's probably going to call it like something stupid.
Ford's gonna mess up the name.
Listen, this is a Ford F-150 GTR. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Honda owns Nissan now.
We
Um,
keep going with the Japanese thing
yeah,
though too.
it's
They're like, yeah,
like, yeah,
this is the Ford Mount Fuji, and you're like, what?
yeah, Ford Kaiju for when you want to haul something more, or when you only want to haul ass.
That's pretty good.
But like, man, it's just, and then you to kind of circle back, and then we'll get to our last talking point of the evening. Um, but like, and then you have Ram over here. Like, all right, so you're telling me Ford tried it with the EcoBoost engines and it didn't work. Our owners are definitely going to, and from my experience, because I happen to live in a town where a lot of people are ferociously loyal to Ram. Um, and you see almost as many Rams as F 150s. But, like,
Well, that's rare.
um,
I mean, that's good for them,
but
yeah.
like,
I mean, I trust me. As a loyal viewer, you guys actually just made a reel on the current state of RAM. I guess you didn't just make it, but a few days ago, Gregson had a reel about the current state and the sales figures. Don't they hold the top three of the top 10 worst selling thing right now? Like they fell off that hard.
yeah. And I mean,
It, it's crazy.
that base does not want anything other than a V8. And
No truck owner does. Yeah, I mean, we're now given you guys got to swallow this pill as Ford owners 10, 12, 14 years ago. You know, everyone was bitching about it because the V8 was still available, it was just hard to get. So everyone kind of eased into the EcoBoost thing. But yeah, they cold turkeyed the Dodge folks because I mean they were just like, tough shit. Here's the Hurricane. Like, that's a wild move, you know.
yeah, and I mean, Chevy was arguably the smartest with it. They're like, okay, so here's your 4.8, your 5.3, your 6.0, or no, your 5.7, your 6.0, and your 6.2.
Right.
You know, and an argument could be made that like the Hurricane and the EcoBoost are better than two of those. In if you were to just sit here and look at, you know, the numbers, right? I'm not saying
Right.
they are better. I'm just saying in a vacuum, if aliens were to look down and be like, why do they don't want this and not this? This is obviously does all the things they want more.
Right. Well, it's just like it's the same reason why they, you know, it's back when Ford did it. They're like, in on paper, they're absolutely right. The EcoBoost can do a lot of things either better or at least differently than the old V8 could, and but it's just that's not truck owners aren't doing. They're not buying on paper stats. They're buying like, oh, I got to get this thing spooled up before it does anything. That's not the way I've been driving trucks for the last 30 years. I don't like that. Like there's a certain temperament with the customer that you kind of don't want to ruffle feathers, and then that's a big feather ruffler. If you're used to being able to hook up a 10,000-pound trailer, drop the thing and drive, and then let your foot off the brake and have it move forward. That's a V8 thing. That is not an EcoBoost thing, and certainly apparently not a Hurricane thing.
But like the other side of that is like, you mean I need to build boost in these turbo things? And probably most truck owners, if you ask them, would be like, if all things being considered and equal in the same price, they jump at the like Ram owners would jump at the chance for the Cummins. Like
100%. Yeah, I mean, and that's a little different.
It is
and,
a little.
Actually, Tyler makes a good point because he's been a focal. He's been very great in these comments right here, but he's right. Although GM does still offer the V8, across the truck lineup, pretty easily. Like you don't have to do any dealership trickery to actually end up with a V8. He is right. Their lifter issues or cam their cam. It's not cam phasers like the Fords, but they have cam and lifter issues like right out of the box right now.
How? That engine's been around for 20 years minimum.
Well, I think it's their newer. So, and like I said, I don't want to say too much about it because I don't know enough to say for certain. But what I think is what's happening is it's the LT architecture and all the direct injection stuff making its way over. I know they used to have what they used to have a problem with on the 5.3s and different things was the mechanism that would actually do the cylinder deactivation. Kind of worked off of a cam system itself, and I don't know what it used to have a problem. That was a while back. I don't know if that's a new factor of what's happening here. So if anybody that is in the comments does know for sure what it is, it's that. But I believe it's them kind of transitioning that LT architecture over to the truck line, and I don't know what it is about it, but it's something is very unreliable, and it's like crazy that they kind of haven't either issued a massive recall or they haven't done like a complete redesign, because I'm pretty sure this is a fairly common thing. I know that we have a shop here, Manning Automotive, that is constantly posting about the valve and cam jobs that they're doing on brand new trucks. Essentially, he's like, another one is coming in, and I remember the post is always, it's not a matter of if it's going to do it, it's a matter of when it's going to do it. I mean, we're talking about a BMW, what were we talking about last week? If you've done your Jesus Christ, you know what I'm talking about, on E92s and everything. I don't know why I'm blanking on this. Either way, the point is that yes, rod bearings. It's one of those things where it's going to it's going to happen. But the problem is, the good thing on the rod bearing thing is you could get 60,000 miles out of the motor. Apparently, this issue is like you could have 500 miles on the motor. You could have 10,000 on the motor, but it apparently is a thing. And yeah, Tyler's Vanos. I guess that's another BMW thing. I mean, I know it. I don't guess. It is a BMW thing. But yeah, no, it is a real thing. It is worth looking into, and of course, that's me being an equal opportunity GM lover, is I'm pointing out one of our fatal flaws. I'm not proud of it.
So what you're saying is not only does Ford make a vastly superior V8 in general, they make a pushrod V8 that is vastly superior in every way. So I have
okay. Your pushrod V8 is limited production and very select application.
Hey,
okay, we're not talking.
When was the last time your Amazon package was late? You're welcome.
I really don't know what Ford Transits have V8s. I've never heard one of those things make a rumble. I believe you, but at the same time, I've never heard one of them, and they're just the geometry of that whole front end situation. I mean, you'd be all up on a V8 in one of those things.
Yeah. That dude in blue did the swap. But at any rate, no, I'm totally messing. I'm totally messing with you. Like, when it comes to pushing of the rods, Chevy is kind of the go-to in today's day and age.
Chevy has pushed the most of them.
And like I replied to Tyler in chat when he said Vanos. It just made me chuckle because like I've run into so as Chattel likely know, as like I'm a bit of a gamer. I play COD, even though it's in a terrible state, whatever. I'm not the platform for it. But there's this one guy who's trying to be a troll in the lobby, teabagging his kills and stuff like that, or whatever. And he got me, and then he proceeded to go with the teabagging thing. So I just went in game chat, and his username had BMW something something something, and I go, BMW guy taking out your Vanos frustrations in a COD lobby, and and like 3 other people are like, don't you mean Thanos? And I'm like, no, Vanos.
Like,
and
no,
he just replies with like
nerds.
the sad emoji, and I got a chuckle out of it. So like, Ford Transit looks like someone got punched in the face multiple times. Sean goes, I'm pretty sure the Amazon trucks that deliver to me use the V8. Well, I should hope so, because if they were the EV ones, it would take 2 days for them to transit to you.
Yeah. You
But
know what's funny? Wichita, we don't even have the EV ones here.
I don't know if well, I know we don't, because I could.
And I'm so dumb. When I go to a big town and I see one, I'm like, hey, look, there's one of the Rivian Amazon ones. I get like all excited about it. Like it's not cool, but I'm like such a dork. I'm so excited to see something different that I'm like, oh, that guy's driving a Rivian one. That's so much cooler than the regular one.
Yeah.
Especially because his day is capped. Think about that. Everybody else can go refuel. Go out there, go deliver more. This guy's like, I'm out. I'm out for the day. Like that might be, if you're, a lazier Amazon driver, you want to be like, you want that one because you have a very finite delivery schedule.
Right, but you better get the routing correct, otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. You could screw that up. Yeah.
Like, it could either be your day is fixed, or your day is about to be really long.
Or your day is way longer than it needs to be. Yeah. Speaking of Wichita local things, and I don't want me to bring the mood down, but I'm sure you saw the news of the airplane crash and stuff like that. Pretty wild, coming from this neck of the woods.
I saw the news about it. I have to be 100% honest. I haven't dove into any of the details yet. Like,
okay. I mean, long story short, it's very tragic, and my heart goes out to everybody involved. Essentially, it was a flight that was from Wichita to DC. It was on final, and a Black Hawk helicopter doing a training mission ran right into them. And everybody's dead. Like every single person on the plane, everybody on the helicopter, and it crashed into the Potomac River. Very tragic, very preventable accident, horrible thing. I mean, it's significant because we really haven't had a commercial air disaster in the continental U.S. since apparently 2009, and even then I didn't remember what that one was. But basically, we don't have major airline disasters really anymore, which is great. It means travel is safe.
mm-hmm.
But it's just kind of wild. And then also to be like, the flight was from Wichita. Like, people from Wichita were going. Like, it's such a random thing to happen. So I don't know if anybody else had seen that, but it was it's definitely taking our city by storm, because of the fact that everyone's like, oh my God, like, I know so and so on that plane or whatever. And then even crazier is, it's like they had I know this is random, not something Wichita's known for, but we had a figure skating competition here, and apparently it's like a lot of like figure skaters and Russian coaches were on the plane. So there's a whole conspiracy theory with that. But either way, big tragedy in the transportation realm. And I mean, we're kind of a transportation podcast, so I figured that needed to get brought up. But yeah, I mean, even Mark Anthony in the comments says it was mostly kids with their parents. It wasn't like a bunch of commuters. I mean, even if it was a bunch of commuters, it would have been tragic. But it was just a sad deal. And like, there's video of it, and it's like, dang, like, they were almost there, and there's nothing they could do about it.
Yeah, it's
just a crazy deal.
That stuff's always like, here's the thing.
Said, we're such a small like area for something like, like, I mean, like, it's not like, I don't know, not like I said, not that it would make any difference, but it's like, you'd almost expect it's like, oh yeah, Chicago flight to whatever. You'd be like, yeah, that these things kind of happen. This is almost like one of those like small town flight to big city is the only plane to crash in the last like their only commercial flight to crash domestically in the last like 25 years. It's nuts.
It's like, and for it to be something that is at least from someone who's not, what's the word? I don't even, not a quote unquote subject matter expert, right? But
yeah,
avoidable.
Exactly.
It wasn't one of those like freak type things where like there's no such thing as 100% quality in production, right? You have quality control to try to help, but like Sometimes you just so it wasn't like some random part failed. It wasn't like
Right.
it wasn't pilot error or
Well, it kind of was on the helicopter
no.
part, but
Well,
like I said,
yeah,
yeah.
no, 100%, 100%.
No, but it wasn't like it wasn't like one of these weird fluke things. It was one of those highly controlled airspace, highly, and probably one of the most highly controlled, if not the most highly controlled in the United
If
States,
not
due
the
to its
world.
proximity to all of our national landmarks.
National landmarks are
Um,
capital. Like,
yeah, so it's like it's not like you don't fly in and out of there all willy nilly.
no, and I mean, you'd
So
expect.
there's a lot of questions and stuff. So it was like one of those. You're like, what? How can this happen? It was a baffling, just an interesting and sad, tragic turn of events. Just because it was like we have so much technology these days, so much awareness, and for something like this to still happen, it was just like
It's
it's
crazy to me. I
wild.
mean, like, no, I mean, look, all you can do
Yeah, like I said,
is
I don't mean to bring it down, but it was just one of those things where, as a Wichita native, it's definitely been one of those things where, yeah, the national eye for some reason I don't know why it's not like it happened here, but there's like a lot of national eye on Wichita, just being the origin of the flight. People are like,
right.
what was going on?
Where did that Black Hawk take off from? Like, if I'm
So
understanding you
yeah,
correctly, the plane was doing its plane thing, and the Black Hawk sort of went into it.
pretty much ran right into it. Especially if you watch the footage, it's a little hard to tell because it's pretty far away, but you see it happen. And then all of the stuff that I've read today, they were asked. You can hear I've listened to the ATC recordings and stuff like that, and you can hear them. They ask the Blackhawk if they have the American Airlines flight in sight, and they say they do. And it's like you just watch it up, and you're like, they definitely don't. Like it's either they're looking at some other plane or something else. But I mean, it is no like there is they fly right into it. And I mean, it is hard to see at night and light pollution and all this other stuff. But I mean, a landing light on an aircraft is very, very bright. You can't really miss it almost. Uh, the whole thing is just, like I said, horrible. And the problem is, like I said, at that low of altitude, once the impact happened, there was nothing anybody could do, in either aircraft. Um, yeah, it's just crazy. And like I said, it crashed right into the river. So it was just, but horrible tragedy. And something that happened, I guess, yeah, like I said, close to home, and that's something that's a flight I've taken. I've been from here to DC many times, either for work, or my sister lived out there for a number of years. So it's one of those things where you go, damn, that could have been on that, you go, anybody could have been on that flight. Just one of those wild things. But yeah, it's an interesting. It's not interest. Okay, it is interesting, but it's worth looking into just to get to be well versed in what happened.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah,
hundred
it's just
percent. Because, like, again, something completely avoidable. Something. Let's put it to you this way, right? Like, just you know, just quick line of thinking. Um, it would appear that the Blackhawk is at fault. I'm not an aviation expert. I'm just going off literally what you had mentioned and how you explained the situation. But my brain immediately goes to, of the two aviators in this particular situation, the arguably more trained pilot made a mistake. And
right because flying a helicopter is harder than flying a plane. 100%.
but it's the military
But
aspect of it, right? If you're flying a Black Hawk, you are you know,
you're pretty trained.
that's it, not an
Um,
inexpensive piece of kit, and they're not going to just trust it to anyone.
no, but they will. They will. They're more likely to throw younger, less experienced people up in there because. See, on the flip side, because it's the military, they also are willing to like throw somebody up in there.
It's just,
Versus like if you've seen the requirements to even get on a low level for an aircraft pilot these days, you have to have like thousands of hours.
yeah,
It's
no, that's
it's
true.
insane.
Um,
So it's like you could argue back and forth, but either way, there's systems in place. I have my just low level basic pilot's license, and I've been flying, for with private pilots for years. Even a long time ago, you have traffic awareness systems.
Yeah.
It's a confusing, weird scenario. And like I said, you'd have to have your head on a freaking swivel to even be flying around that area because of how busy it is.
Yeah, no, it's
You know,
that's a whole other
but
thing. I mean, you know, again, like aviation, as weird as this sounds, is not an area where I'm in. Like, I feel like with cars and most things automotive, I may not be able to consider myself a quote unquote expert, but I know enough to have a very educated opinion on certain things. Um, when it comes to
which is why we talk for hours about
literally,
it.
aviation is one of those things where it just doesn't. And again, because this strikes me as weird to say, because one of the, I think I may have mentioned this before, if not last week. Um, One of the colleges I applied to out of high school was the Naval Academy, because like I wanted to be a naval aviator. Like I was the typical kid. Like I wasn't the Top Gear or Top Gear, Top Gun,
Top Gun,
Top Gun,
yeah,
Top Gear. Influential at different stages of my life. Interesting. Top.
yeah.
But no, like I wanted to be a naval aviator, and like as I guess luck would have it, the same thing that made me a pretty decent baseball player also made me a pretty decent candidate for that. As luck would have it, mom was like, "Wait, you're actually serious about going into the Navy?" No. So,
No.
and then dad's like, "You're paying for college," and I was like, "But this is free." And he's like, "You're paying for college." So I'm like, "All right, well, I guess junior college it is for me."
Yeah, you're like, this is not. You guys are incentivizing shit here. This sucks.
No, but it all worked out. But one last thing to kind of
Yeah, I know. It's like let's move on to it's a happier subject.
angry Corvette drivers.
Yeah, professional angry Corvette drivers.
Yes. So
Let's set the stage though, because I do. You watch this live, correct?
yes, I actually managed to watch. I think I watched 20 to 21 hours of
Dang,
the 24-hour race. I
that's
had
commitment, man.
you could call it commitment. A lot of it was more hold on one second. Let me just
Autism.
oh nope, this is the wrong one. Um
Oh, you're trying to find something. I thought you were trying to find the word for what you'd call what you did. I was like, I don't know.
No, what happened was is that I wasn't actually feeling well, and I've had like horrible sleep issues of late.
Ah, sorry, man. That's the worst.
It is what it is. I appreciate you saying that, but so like I was up, like is the general gist of what I was trying to say there.
Right.
I was the awake. Let's see if I can. I hate when they do this. I'm trying to pull up the video so it's like easier for me to explain or walk people through this. There, that is, and then we'll just. Does it show anything on my desktop? It shouldn't actually.
No. Well, hold on. I mean, so I know, guys, a little curtain pull here. What I see when I'm looking this view, obviously, is just your initials, so I don't see anything. I'm looking at the stream below, and it's delayed enough that I can't tell immediately when you.
I'm sorry. I was talking to myself. I want to make.
I know. I'm just trying to let you know that actively nothing on the stream version of it. So no, I don't see anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to. All right, we'll cue it up to here. Oh God, my.
This is awesome though, and I have watched it, and now I know what's going. Like I said, got caught up. I love this. I've got stuff to say, and
yes,
I mean, I love this so much. Iconic moment.
It is absolutely a. It is one of those moments that I think in motorsport where you're like, it transcends the Uber fan, right? I would classify myself as a massive fan of sports car racing, but it is a niche motorsport in the sense it's like rally, right? Like people know of it,
Right.
they know it's crazy, but it's not like NASCAR or even like an Indy car or even Formula One in this country. I think honestly,
Right. Those are the big three. Yeah.
so to set the scene, this is at the
Here we are.
this is the 24 hours of Daytona. This was second half of the race, only several hours to remain, and the Corvette, the yellow car, if that wasn't painfully obvious,
As Corvettes should be.
uh,
No bias here.
weirdly enough, not in red, white, and blue or the M colors. This is actually in the lead of its class, which is GTD Pro. To anyone who cares, the red.
Right. Also, just to interject, this is the type of racing, if nobody's watched this or is familiar with it before, where there are cars that are faster than others, so lapping happens. So that's important.
Well, that yes. Number two, it's a 24-hour race, so you see lapping in a NASCAR race in a 4-hour race, right?
True. I'm just saying this definitely
And
happens
it's
with
multi-class racing. So
right with multi-class racing. What you're looking at is not necessarily 1, 2, 3. In fact, you're not.
no, so all of these cars, as you are in the GTD Pro class, you can tell that by, and we're really going to be showing off a lot of my tism for this motorsport. The red end plates on the wings here. That tells you what class they're in. Also, the number plates being red also tell you what class they're in. The Corvette's leading the race. This BMW on the left here is second in class. The BMW here, and this is the 48 car, is at
It's like 12th.
Oh, it doesn't even. It's like 40 plus laps down. It was involved in a crash in the overnight. It's out of the running for the win. It's the team car to obviously the other BMW, if the matching liveries didn't immediately give that away. So, at this moment in time, what has happened is the BMW in front, the 48, has made a pit stop laps before this and timed said pit stop to come out in front of the Corvette and then backed up to the Corvette. Meaning it was, I don't know if they were driving purposely slow, if they had damage, but their lap times were not of the lead group as far as pace was concerned and backed up to the Corvette. And for several laps was in the Corvette's way. The second BMW, the number one car, was seconds behind, and it was able to close the gap much shorter than it would have on pace alone, because the BMWs were a strong car in this race.
And the car at least especially in this image in the rear is actually in second place.
Yes, so the Corvette and the second BMW are
key.
fighting for position. The team car has artificially put itself in front.
Done. He's taking up space
At this
on the
specific moment in the race, the stewards have been had enough of this car blocking the Corvette. It had legitimately got a penalty for blocking, and it would have to serve that penalty at the end of this lap. So, let me just make sure this is muted. So as we watch the clip, we can see here the Corvette's trying desperately to get around. It's pinched in. It comes out. It makes contact with the other BMW, the number one car, bodywork damaged. Even though it makes contact with the one car, it should have never been in the position to make contact with it because the 48 was artificially blocking.
Right.
So now the Corvettes in this race they were fast. They were fighting they were in the lead this late in the race, so that'll tell you something. But they were struggling with straight line speed, probably because Chevy can't make good V8s. I'm kidding.
Oh, come on. I knew that. I guess you were going to get one in there, but
a Ford did win this class at Mustang Coyote. Just saying. At any rate,
Well, they weren't dealing with some sort of German book ending here going on.
Some German teamwork, which is always a bad thing. Um, so this eventually led to Corvette. You could see, you saw the beginnings of it there. They were like, Now they showed this on the broadcast and they brought it back. So let's just get him on the oval again.
So good.
So, that this shows you here. Sorry, not to get completely sidetracked. This shows you what I'm talking. Oh, actually, that was a brilliant shot of it. Tism tickling here. This shows you. So you have the purple car here. That's a prototype, but it's the slower of the two prototype classes. That's LMP2. You have GT right here in front of us, and then you have the BMW prototype, which is prototype. And the best moment of the race, he lets him know. Augusto Farfus was the driver of the BMW. And the Corvette owner...
already a douchey name.
Yeah, Brazilian. Here's one more thing I want to say about the 48. Three of those drivers, or if not four of them, I can't remember off the top of my head, but at least three of the drivers. So again, 24-hour race. It is biblically unsafe to do all 24 hours by yourself. It's deemed unsafe to do it by yourself with only two drivers these days. So you have to have a minimum of three. Most teams go with four. The driver lineup in that 48 car, the car that was laps down, the car that was artificially blocking, the car that was doing all the dirty tricks you could possibly do to try to help its sister car, they won a week or so ago at the 24 Hours of Dubai. We are not talking about, because in sports car racing, you do get AM drivers, you get gentleman drivers, guys who are basically paying for a seat. These are BMW factory drivers. These are professionals, and these are race-winning professionals. They should know better, which is why Tommy Milner, who is one of the most respectful, regardless of the situation, drivers ever, or at least that I've been able to watch, gave the "your number one" salute to the BMW driver. Which...
Love it.
So... before I show you what happened next, Elliott, as a Corvette driver, who was the last mark of car you flipped the bird?
That's a good question, actually. Goodness. Honestly, and I'm not even joking, it might have been a Ford owner.
Understandable.
But there are a lot of you, it's spread across the driving gambit. But there's some things you got to be careful. So this situation notwithstanding, since your question is there, so when you're in a sports car and stuff like that, you are already the asshole. Like, you just have to. It doesn't matter. You could get cut off. You're the asshole. That's just the public perception. So I don't use the bird all willy nilly when I'm in a hot car. Let's just say that. And also, we're in the Midwest here. We don't even use our horns. You would be appalled, Chad. I think you would lose your mind here, because you'd be laying on your horn and you'd panic three people and cause an accident because of people freaking out. So, anyway, I probably a Ford Fusion. But I have some thoughts here about, especially knowing the situation, knowing that this guy's blocked, knowing all this stuff. Bodywork was damaged. I mean, the Corvette owner was getting, Bavarian bullied, like no matter how you look at it. But one of the things I want to say here is, even in a race car, going that fast, even on the banked, on the oval, you're holding on to the car. So there's a couple of things here that I'm just impressed with. I don't care if this guy was in anything. I love that he was in a Corvette, but he could have been in anything. This is not it's not a drive with your knees type of car.
It doesn't.
And
It doesn't have a steering wheel. It has a yoke.
exactly.
Like,
So,
and the
like I
window
said,
flap is so small that it like
and
takes.
the window
You have to
flap
be
is
committed
arm
to it.
sized. So, and then if you've ever worn a full face helmet with a Hans device and everything else, you don't even have the periphery to see to get your like arm out the little armhole, which is just big enough for your armhole. So these factors, I'm already like, okay, this is so meant to be that this guy shoved his arm out of there and against 180-mile-an-hour
Yeah,
wind.
that's the other thing I missed. 180-mile-an-hour bird.
It's hard to hold your hand up in 80 miles an hour. You know, if you go to flip your buddy off on the highway, like you feel that. Like, I mean, at 100 miles an hour to that, that is a strong bird. Like,
There's
everything about
commitment
this.
behind it.
You are one hand wrestling a car, you know, with a yoke situation, and then getting your arm out of something only an arm's width, you know, or arm's circumference wide, and then doing the bird. I mean, that is the most felt bird, you know, it definitely in racing history, and like I said, possibly in motoring history, because I mean, the effort, the risk, and just like I said, the soul behind that extended finger was, like I said, I don't care what mark or model, you know, the car that was being driven that this happened in. It was just such a statement. And it's funny because it's relatable, because it's a statement we've all made or felt. But in this scenario, the way it was captured, the way it was done is just one for the ages.
And an American car, American driver at the American race, and like
thing.
I will point out that where the contact in this happened, it was in the infield. One of the trickiest endurance racing corners is turn 1 at Daytona for the road course, because the banking on the transition and stuff, you were seeing guys lock up their brakes a ton here. So the 4 car goes in, they have to pull this bodywork out, because like I said, they were compromised in a straight line, and having a giant carbon fiber parachute wasn't helping.
Right.
So this incident happened with about 23 minutes left in the race.
Which, if nobody's paying attention here, would be a hot time of the race. It's been a long day, and it's literally to the end.
A day.
Yeah, it's been a long, full day.
Actually,
and it's coming to the end. So these are contentious, hot moments.
Fun fact about this race: some of the mid-engine cars, so guys coming out of the prototypes, Corvettes, like Ferraris, things like that, Porsches, I know rear engine, but basically where the engine was behind the driver, it was so cold down in Daytona this past weekend that drivers were like, yeah, my feet were getting cold if the engine wasn't in front of them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is not usually the case in a race car. So,
definitely not.
About 12 to 13 minutes later, the roles have been reversed. The BMW is now in a sandwich of Corvettes, both of which are on the same lap, both of which I think at this point the lead Corvette was in second, the BMW in third, and the number 4 Corvette here in the back, the car that was originally punted, was in fourth. So, again, this is turn 1 at Daytona. It is a very difficult braking zone. Because right where you see this, it's not a white, looks like a white line. It's actually whatever that seal code is for asphalt and stuff, but a motor sports variant of it. That's the transition coming off the banking, and even in the tri-oval, there is a significant amount of banking. This is a pretty tricky corner because when you brake in motorsports, you have to brake in a straight line. Is the best thing to do. Without getting too technical, your front wheels can only do so much. So think of it as it has a meter, and that meter goes to 100. Well, if you apply 80% of that with steering lock, they can only handle 20% braking, if that makes. So if you want full force braking, straight wheels. These cars do have ABS and traction control for the record, though. So we're in turn 1, and he's going for a move, and it's goodbye, Mr. BMW. By the way, in case if you wanted to notice, Mustang. That's the first place car. This joke is I'm gonna beat this until it's beyond a dead.
Prototype.
No, that's the class leading GT Mustang, ahead of the same in class Corvettes. Mustang leading Corvettes.
Huh.
And
a rare sight, but anyway.
In any rate, now a lot of people are going to sit here and watch that and think that is a revenge move, especially if you're a fan of NASCAR. You're going to watch this and think that the Corvette was getting its revenge on a BMW. Here's why it's not. The Corvette got a penalty. Because regardless of what happened before, that is deemed to be avoidable content or causing an accident, and it is in fact a penalty. Not something you want to do when you're fourth place with 10 minutes to go. But the BMW team as a whole, the 48 got its penalty, and the number one BMW got taken out of contention for the win. So I guess justice was served, even if the poor number 4 Corvette had to receive another penalty. This was not intentional. This was a case of 10 minutes to go. Go for it. You're nailing it.
That looks pretty intentional, even as a Corvette fan.
But the penalty to that is you're going to go from finishing 4th, or more than likely being able to make that pass at the bus stop later in the lap or what have you, or even again at turn 1. Because it's about a 1 minute 45 second lap, I think, for the GTs around the Roval at Daytona. And again, keep in mind, that car's competing for a championship. The championship was decided in GT this past year by like 2 or 3 points, or like roughly 5 points, I think. So every point matters. And there's a big check that comes with where you finish in the championship for both the teams, for mostly the teams and stuff. So you are absolutely not trying to NASCAR hook someone in this situation, because it guaranteed. Now, if he had gotten side by side, let me see if I can find. Now, if he had gotten, now Max Verstappen would consider this to being alongside. It's not. It's let's see here. Is the second angle of it any better? No. So he's not alongside. Alongside in sports car racing is deemed to be your wheels effectively line up. Now, and if they had sort of come into the corner and sort of door to door, like you saw the contact with the Corvette and the BMW before with the number 1, it's not a penalty. It's deemed to be a racing incident. This, you're hooking someone. It's significantly more dangerous. It's a pit. It looks like a pit maneuver, right? Which
it looks exactly like a pit maneuver.
But again, this guy, he cost himself, championship points, positions in the race, potentially a podium for the race, potentially a 2-3 for Corvette, and who knows if the Corvettes weren't great in a straight line, but they're team cars, they could work together with the draft. It's not, you saw it when they got to, where's the next clip? Like, they're not that far behind. They could have worked together and potentially caught the Mustang. The Mustang was one of the cars that was better in a straight line, but through the infield, the Corvettes were catching the Mustang. So everyone, from the guys commenting on the race to the drivers to everyone who's sort of looked at this and analyzed it, while it looks prototypical NASCAR, oh, you took me out of the race, I'm going to take you out of the race. Huh. It's actually not. And it's a case of the driver at this point was no longer Milner, who's a very experienced sports car racer. It was how do I describe him? For the regular part of the season, 2 drivers compete for the championship. For the endurance races, they bring in a third and a fourth driver. This guy was the 4th driver. He was a young Corvette racer. I forget his name. He was trying to get the position, and he showed his, we'll just say, youth, exuberance, and inexperience there. But
Gotcha. It was still.
it was just desserts, though, for BMW as a whole, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. Just either way, I think, and I hope that this kind of puts this racing on the map, or not, maybe not on the map, but like, it gets a little bit more attention. People see, there's some fun to be had here, or like, there's some action going on in this race. Whether, like I said, at the cost of sportsmanship or what have you, there's that. But I mean, any publicity is good publicity, and I think people are talking about this race, and I think this type of racing is more in the buzzosphere than it normally is. That's for sure.
Right. It catched the more casual viewer, and because number one, sports car racing is in a boom period, and without getting too much into it,
all right, see you, Tyler. I just say thanks for joining us.
Like I mentioned before, Ford in 2027 is joining 9 other manufacturers.
Right, wildness.
At Le Mans. They're joining 6 or 7 here in the States because Ferrari, Peugeot, I forget who else. But, like, it's in a boom state. There's a ton of manufacturer involvement in GT3 racing. That's why they went to this class a few years ago. There's a ton of manufacturer involvement in the top level of the prototype side of things. It has just enough tech to tickle the OEM's fancy in the terms of hybrid technology and stuff like that. Not that it's a massive part of it. And
no, but it's a development edge. I mean, I get it.
Right. I mean, your Prius doesn't add significantly less horsepower than the hybrid. What is your hybrid or the electric motor make in your Prius?
Oh, in my Prius, I mean, it's an early car, so it's like my electric motor adds like 30 or 35 horsepower.
Okay. That's
it's like not it.
That's almost
not that
that's
much.
almost half of what the electric motors add in the prototypes in this style of racing.
And what's interesting in this though, these cars are already making 500 and something horsepower. Like,
yes.
My electric motor adds almost half of my entire horsepower to begin with.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is that the hybrid, it's not like so this replaced LMP1. LMP1, the hybrid, they were adding. That's where your the Porsche 919 Evo that sets every lap record on any track it sets foot on. A sub 6-minute Nürburgring time. No, Sean, there's actually a few others, and and YouTube, we have quite a few. Hello, YouTube. But anyway, to kind of put a bow on this and on the stream, and we're only going to use 1 to 3 bows max this time. If you were here last week, you get it. It's this style of racing has been a favorite of mine since I was a kid. I'm actually, like I said, I'm going to be doing 2 long-form videos on this style of racing. The only downside to this moment is that it's like, this is amazing. It happened in January. The next IMSA race is in March. So, like...
Hey, but like I said, you know what, though? I mean, given it's not like we work for them or anything like that, but I think that there's going to be a significantly higher number of people watching come March.
Yeah,
because of how cool this one was.
Right. Peacock's going to see a boom and everything.
Yeah.
And it's Sebring, which is another one of the quote-unquote Triple Crown races.
It's a biggie.
Yeah. And it's one of... If you can go to any sports car race, and there's so many different variants of sports car racing, case in point, this was IMSA. Like I said, 2 prototypes, 2 GT classes. The slowest class in IMSA is the top class at another endurance classic, Bathurst, which is this weekend. At any rate, this type of motorsport, the only downside to this type of motorsport is the fact that we are in the quote-unquote ADD era, where So wait, the race is how long? Right?
Oh yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't sell. Oh my god, yeah, it's 24 hours. Like people don't get the gruelingness and the toll that it takes on everything. That forget that they can't imagine a race lasting more than 1 hour.
Right.
They're like, what is this? You know, like so you don't. Yeah, you can't lean on the fact that this is 24 hours straight.
But but if you ask any sort of motorsport or race car driver, the biggest race of the year, the most famous race, some might think it's the Daytona 500, Indy 500, Monaco and Grand Prix, you know, Baja and off-road racing, blah 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 blah. All of them will say
Right.
the Le Mans 24 hour. It holds that much prestige, and
As it should.
I mean, let's put
As
it
it
this
should.
way: NASCAR competed in it last year. um, so like that should kind of give you an idea of it.
Right. I mean that was and remember that was the big story last year, at least
Yeah,
on this
because
side of the pond. You know, you had this fucking Camaro, going down hustling the corners. It was awesome. It was awesome.
not here, but it was arguably a bigger hit with the Europeans because
Actually, yeah, I bet you you're right because it was like, what are these Yanks doing?
it's so foreign to them, and
Exactly.
the memery that came out of it was just great.
Yeah,
My
I
favorite one
loved
is
the memes. Yes.
my favorite one is there were two things. Number one was the Florida man asking if there's Winnebago parking at Le Mans. It was number one.
That's funny.
And number two, it's like, and for the 2025 24 hours of Le Mans, it was just Gravedigger going through the Dunlop.
I haven't seen that one. That's awesome.
It was so good. But like, it warms my heart that this style of racing has had sort of that moment because I'm trying to think of it like NASCAR stars like Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, IndyCar drivers have done it, F1 drivers have done it. Like the thing that makes Daytona so great is that since it's before pretty much everyone else's race season, you get all these drivers from all these different disciplines competing in all these different types of cars.
Right.
But I don't think it's had a whoa, what's going on over here moment since 2001 when Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Finished third overall in a GT
I know
car.
in C5Rs.
Yeah, that's much to your
sick.
enjoyment. Will be, I will be doing the C5Rs of Earnhardt fame in a video very soon.
Good. And actually, this I meant to, and I don't want to go off on this, but you mentioned something that made me want to say something regarding those, more or less. Is that you wish that Ford had these ability to take those kind of road cars that they do that they make and kind of make a street car version of it, like we have as far as Corvette guys go, or that stuff is that K-Tech, the guys that make or made the C5 and the C6R, they did make some road cars, so we did have that.
Yeah, well,
I
Pratt and Miller
I meant to say that a
did
long
that
time
with
ago.
they have the C6R something. Pratt and Miller built a
Right, they have the Pratt and Miller. We have one that's local to Wichita. They only made like 3 or 4, and we have one here, and it's sick in real life. But yeah, but also even for me, which is also, this is tough for me to say because one of the biggest things I'm a sucker for is movable bodywork, like Active Aero, and they threw Active Aero on a C6, and that is so cool. Because that is car. It's not like it started out with some. They had to put that in there. It's incredible. That being said, do I want to spend 270 grand on one? No. I'd love to drive one, but I don't think that they're. It's always gonna be a special car, but
I don't know, who knows?
just
Maybe
one of
one
those-
will come through the worldwide.
Oh god, yeah! If one comes through worldwide, we're gonna be set. I'll drive one, and then I'll be like, guys, I did it. No, you know what's exciting though? I do get to go out there. Finally, I've been meaning to do this. You know, I don't know if this is even to wrap things up, and we'll talk about this more later with a different podcast. But so the enthusiast auction and tour is coming up in April, and I've just finally gotten word. One of the things I've been wanting to do with them is because I film and I do all this stuff for them, not for me. Um, Part of the thing that's tough is that when I'm out there for auction week, is it's just busy, it's just packed, and like it's difficult to film because of just the logistics of everything. And so I kind of have been wondering. I was like, guys, why don't you just have me out there like a little bit before, so I can like film stuff without everybody being in the way. Like, I know, crazy. Uh, but I finally got word that basically I will be going out there at the end of March to film before the auction at the end of April. So I'll actually have ample time to really film with stuff, which will be really, really cool. I'm excited about that. I don't know what all they have in the catalog right now, but I do know one car that I want to get my hands on. They have a Ferrari 512 TR, which is basically the send off for the Testarossa. It has, it doesn't have pop up headlights and it has weird wheels. They're very goofy looking cars. Actually, they look like a Ferrari is wearing too small of clothes. Is like the only way I can describe them. But they have one, and I was like, it's perfect. Like as far as Testarossas go, that was like the Z06 of Testarossas. And I'm like, man, yeah, definitely want to get my hands on a 512 TR.
That's an
But yeah,
amazing
no, and
opportunity just to like be in one, let alone.
I know, like I said, they don't come up that often because it's like they were like that was the end of that whole thing. And I mean, and they've got this whole thing which I will flesh out in better detail than I have in right now, but they have that whole weird thing. If you've ever looked into the Testarossa in general, it's like they call it a flat V12, which doesn't make sense. You're like, well, is it a flat 12 or is it a V12? And it's like this hybrid of in between being a flat boxer 12 and a V12. It's a weird
Isn't it
thing that they've got
technically
going
like?
on.
Wouldn't it? Isn't it like the technically given like the firing order and stuff, a 180-degree V12? Because like I think boxer engines have a certain firing order, and like I don't know the difference between flat and 180, but like I remember, oh god, I remember watching something or reading something talking about how it's like yes, it's a flat 12 because they were racing a flat 12 at the time.
Right, and that's kind of how they got. So that's what I'm saying. They dance this weird line in between whether it is a flat 12 or it's technically due to the angle of something or the other still a V12. And you're like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing that I'm going to dive more
Yeah,
into.
that
But
stuff's like interesting because I think like might have been Jason Camisa, but it's been a while. And like the difference between a boxer, because boxer got the name because the pistons are doing like this on the
right,
crankshaft,
they're opposing each other.
and like a V, technically like top dead center. Here, when it's bottom dead center, the opposing piston isn't at
Right,
top dead center. It that type of engine stuff I nerd out on like pretty hard. But like, yeah, to your point,
right.
it's like it's flat, right? If you would look at a line, right? Like say I had a V and then I made the angle 180 degrees. You wouldn't call that a 180-degree V. You would call that a flat line.
Exactly. You don't like. Let's say I had a V and then I laid it down. You're like, well, it's not a V anymore.
Yeah. But
But anyway, I more to come on that, and like I said, I will I'll expand. But I can't wait to come back from the first time I've ever gotten to actually go out there and be uninhibited. I mean, these guys give me all the opportunity in the world, and even when I am inhibited, I still get to do a lot of stuff. But I'm excited to film without. There's a guy there that, well, If anybody's ever seen Roadhouse, he looks like Sam Elliott from Roadhouse specifically. So he doesn't just look like Sam Elliott; he looks like Sam Elliott from
Does
Roadhouse.
he
And
walk
this
around with
guy,
Coors Heavy?
he might as well, but he's in all denim and pissed off. And he like anytime he's the main guy. He's like the head wrangler there. And anytime I do anything, it is like he is visibly upset, and I hate it. It's the most uncomfortable part of like anything I do. I'm like, I'm gonna take the car. Can I do over here? And it's like, well, somebody needs to go talk to Stu. And I'm like, I don't want to. I feel like such a bitch sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to talk to Stu. Stu's gonna be mad. Stu's big and scary. And hopefully, with it being not a crowded week, that I'll be like, dude, just let it happen.
Yeah. I mean, plus, like,
but,
you've done so much for them with the content and the stuff you've like actually driven.
I have, and he knows I can drive stuff, and I know how to work all of the cars, so he's not worried about it. I think a lot of the time is he's worried that I'm moving something that was already perfectly in place and then putting it back, like, because he's like he in his mind, and I get it. He has hundreds of cars that don't mess with these. Like, don't move them. I need to know where they are. And like, here I am being like, what if I just take one right out of the stack and move it around? He's probably like, no, please stop.
Yeah, no,
but, I get it. Like, I'm not ever confused of why he's mad. I'm just always like, sorry, dude. I'm gonna put it.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I get it, but like the fact that you're even in that, what's the word I'm looking for? Even the fact that that's even potentially maybe sort of kind of maybe might end up being an option is still a really cool thing,
right?
You know?
No, so and that's what I'm saying. I think this went back to when you were talking about like driving things, like, and it's frustrating. You know, sometimes things don't come out. I drove, one of my Elliott dream cars, which is a '55 Corvette. He's only made 800 of them, and that was the body style that looks like a '53, but it had a V8. So it was the first Corvette that had a V8, which in my opinion is like one of those. This is the first Corvette the way it was supposed to be, kind of thing. And I got to drive one, so it's like it's a watershed moment for me. And I'm like, I had this whole gushing video, and like, not gushing, I guess, but this thing. I mean, I had a camera guy. I had all this footage. It never even came out. I don't even know what happened to it. Like, it might as well not exist. It's like, and now I'm just over here spouting these memories, being like, no, I've done it. I did do it. And it's like, given nobody's questioning me, nobody's going, no, show me. But
no, I'm kidding.
I'm like, but it is one of those things where I'm like, huh, that is one of those things that I definitely did, and it just never came out. Because it wasn't for my channel. Because, like, I mean, I wish it was for my channel, because definitely would have put it out there. I think it would have been to dismal views, because YouTube hates anything before 1980. But I was pretty excited. Hopefully, like I said, I'll have the time when I go back out there to either do videos for myself, that will see the light of day if I can control it, and then also do more crap for them, but without any crazy weird pressure from things not being in place or whatever.
Yeah, man. Well,
but anyway,
no, I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure you're looking forward to it much more, to be in its actual presence. Don't skip leg day, because I hear those clutches are quite heavy.
They can be.
But I just want to take this second. Thank you for being a last minute addition on here. I think I texted you with like 3 hours notice. And Elliott,
I was confused, because I was like, it's not even Wednesday.
Yeah. Weird. At the point I texted you, I was like, why is he? What does he mean by? Oh, right, it is Thursday. Crap. But no, man. Thank you so much for hopping on. We appreciate you. Of course. Chad appreciates you.
Appreciate them.
And yeah, guys. thanks again for watching. Thank you to everyone who sent stars. Thank you to everyone who liked, shared, all that sort of fun stuff. But as for this one,